Hello, my name is Crystal Marquez, and this presentation will cover counseling Marshall Islands students. Within this presentation, we will cover the relevance of the issue, research on this topic, and a plan for action. First, let's discuss why this topic is so relevant today. According to Abby Budeman, an analyst for the Pew Research Center, AAPI population is also the nation's fastest growing racial or ethnic group. Between 2000 and 2019, their numbers grew by 81%, outpacing a 70% increase among Hispanics. In addition, our country is becoming more and more diverse each year. Now more than ever, there is no room for an encapsulated counselor, as less than 60% of citizens reported to be white alone, without Hispanic or Latino descent, according to the 2020 U.S. Census. And on an individual level, I specifically chose to research the Marshallese population because I have a lot of the 692 crew on my caseload at Rogers High School. Rogers, Arkansas is just next door to Springdale, which is home to the highest population of Marshallese people outside of the Republic of the Marshall Islands. When doing my research over counseling Marshallese students, I had a lot of limitations for finding specific research material over just this subgroup. This is due to ethnic glossing, which we'll discuss next. Then we'll move on to the review relevant Marshallese background and culture, as well as some common issues that might require a professional school counselor's support. When I began my research on counseling Marshallese students, I quickly realized there were very few articles about just the Marshallese population alone. Rather, all Asian American and Pacific Islanders are lumped into one category. Unfortunately, this is an example of ethnic glossing. Ethnic glossing is an overgeneralization or simplistic categorical label used to refer to ethnocultural groups. This is not best practice when researching the counseling needs of one people group, since, like in this example, at least 25 distinct self-identified AAPI groups, each with their own unique linguistic, cultural, and historical differences that are often AAPI's outcomes and opportunities throughout their lives. Look at this example. Most papers review the AAPI community in general, but as you can see from these two maps, that is covering a lot of different people groups. The Marshall Islands cover over 180,000 square miles of the Pacific and were settled by Micronesians. Foster defines Micronesian as a term to describe a group of people spanning over 600 islands in the Pacific. In fact, many people often link Hawaiians to the Marshallese people, and that's because they're both geographically and genetically close with the Micronesian people group. World War II would have an integral impact on the Marshallese people when Bikini and Inuit served as an official testing ground for U.S. nuclear bombs in 1946 through 58. These bombs were dropped near the island, wreaking havoc on the island and causing lasting physical effects on the people who lived there. The test stopped in 58, and cleanup efforts began in the late 60s. While nothing can compensate the Marshallese for the atrocities shown to them, their government signed the Compact of Free Association with the United States to attempt to do just that. One of the most important aspects of this compact was to provide financial assistance programs to the islanders, which resulted in many of them relocating to the mainland, with a large portion immigrating to Northwest Arkansas. The Marshallese are very family-oriented. Rudiak Gold in 2019 explains this in part is most likely due to past generations living on smaller Marshallese atolls where storms, famine, or war could devastate a community. Since islanders could not escape these threats, their society evolved to survive in a confined space. Survival could be summed up as get along, fill your role, do your part, and don't rock the boat. This means that conflict had to be avoided at all costs, since discord disrupted the activities necessary for survival. Consequently, individualism is not a priority among the islander group, as this could interfere with daily duty. As a result of this tenuous living situation, the Marshallese have developed a unique social structure that makes it easy for everyone to be responsible for each other and coexist. Consequently, the social structure in the Marshall Islands is based on membership in a wish, a system of extended families or small clans. All members of the Ouija work together for the common good, sharing food, housing, property, and resources. One of the most interesting aspects of Ouija life is the sharing of children. Infants remain close to one of their mothers, which can be the real or classificatory mother. In addition, toddlers and young children are largely cared for by siblings slightly older than themselves. On the other hand, many experimental marriages do not last, the children of these unions commonly being adopted by their mother's family of orientation or remaining with the mother and being adopted by her subsequent spouse. Unfortunately, an overwhelming 51% of Marshallese women on the island have experienced physical and or sexual intimate partner violence during their lifetime. Due to Christian missionaries landing on the island in the 19th century, the Marshallese are predominantly Christian today and speak primarily Marshallese and secondarily English. Indeed, the church is an important part of the lives of this community. However, although there have been rapid changes that westernization has brought to the islands, the Marshall community consider themselves both authentically Marshallese and devoutly Christian. And that does not mean that threads of the old Marshallese folklore are not alive today. Supernatural beings, primarily those of evil but also other spirits, are embedded in the consciousness of many members, and a culturally literate counselor will understand this. A number of studies pointed out that a higher level of acculturation of Asians and Pacific Islanders is a good predictor of their psychological help-seeking behaviors. Therefore, the more they are acculturated to U.S. mainland culture, the more likely they are able to seek help from a counselor. It is important that counselors recognize the acculturation level of these students before making hasty decisions about terminating counseling relationships, making referrals, and recommending group therapy sessions. Unfortunately, few means are available to assess clients' level of acculturation. But the Cultural Adaptation Pain Scale, or CAPS, developed by Santu et al. In 1996, may provide a useful tool in this regard. As previously mentioned, familial issues are often a point of discussion needing to be addressed in Marshallese counseling sessions. PI clients reported more concerns related to their family of origin. For example, in a study between Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, the island clients endorsed higher incidence of parental divorce, physical abuse in the family, serious physical illness such as obesity, heart disease, and diabetes, as well as rape, sexual assault in the family, and family member prosecuted for criminal activity. So, although previous research has shown that Pacific Islanders tend to turn to their family for help and guidance when dealing with emotional issues, in this study, family problems seem to also contribute to that distress, causing PI clients to seek counseling. Another issue to consider with counseling the Marshallese population is the bamboo ceiling. AAPI counselor educators face specific challenges that are not shared by other faculty of color or white colleagues. When in positions of leadership and within academia, AAPI faculty are forced to navigate predominantly white spaces. The bamboo ceiling refers to the occupational and cultural barriers that can impede career advancement opportunities for AAPI individuals. AAPI, who occupy positions of leadership as counselor, educator, faculty, are forced to navigate cultural discrepancies. Although the worldviews of AAPI faculty are influenced by ethnic identity and acculturation, the individualistic behaviors that characterize academic leadership are diametrically opposed to the collective notions associated with many AAPI, especially East Asian subgroups. So collectivistic notions shared by many AAPI subgroups include beliefs that one should accept rather than confront problems, avoid disclosing problems to save face, and maintain interpersonal relationships to preserve social harmony. Caring for other colleagues, preserving group interests, and maintaining harmony may be misinterpreted in Western societies as docile, weak, and passive characteristics that position AAP faculty as unworthy of promotion, career advancement, or leadership. Each of these issues prevents AAPI faculty from advancing and or shortens the length of their employment in academia. Having reviewed the research provided for counseling students from the island, there are several action steps one can take to better support them. First, counselors must become culturally aware. In a study by Zhang and Dixon in 2001, the research examined cultural sensitivity, the differential effectiveness of culturally responsive and culturally neutral counselors based on the input of 60 students who were interviewed under both conditions. The culturally responsive counselor were viewed as more expert, more attractive, and more trustworthy than the culturally neutral counselors. Secondly, nonverbal language is very important to the Islander population. Kim Lang and Lee in 2003 examined the relationship between counselors' nonverbal behavior and counseling session outcomes. European American counselors who tended to smile more and make postural shifts more frequently than their Asian American counterparts received higher scores on productivity and involvement in the session by 112 volunteer clients. Thirdly, PI clients are less likely to remain in therapy even after controlling for symptom change. So we recommend that mental health professionals and counselors take steps to mitigate the risk of treatment attrition among PI students, such as incorporating recommendations for culturally appropriate treatment. Prior research has shown that culturally adapted therapy is much more effective than traditional therapy that does not explicitly account for a client's culture. In addition, we invite counseling centers to learn the specific reasons why PI clients tend to discontinue therapy. Though the findings of the research did not provide specifics on why island students discontinue therapy, it seems particularly important that therapists be aware of the shortened time period they may have and work to establish a strong therapeutic or counseling relationship early on with their island clients. This also relates to asking about their family. So, looking at long term goals, educating teachers on cultural habits such as not looking an elder in the eye or talking back, even when answering questions, or even the concept of the island time, could go a long way in mitigating misunderstandings. And this is a way that counselors can be an advocate for their islander students with the teachers. While this is more of a plan of action for the classroom, counselors should serve as consultants to teachers and are also the students' advocates. So this step is very appropriate to the overall plan of action. As far as the bamboo ceiling, ideally, administrations and universities of counseling will recognize the need for more Marshallese representatives and will encourage scholarships and hiring accordingly. Finally, a call to stop lumping all Asian American and Pacific Islanders into one simplistic study and doing more research on individual cultures is needed to best understand and appreciate these people groups. So these are the references that I used for my research and my presentation.